From this moment forward, my brother and his wife have opted to manage the household on their own, asking me to seek alternative living arrangements. My mother has sided with them, treating my presence as an inconvenience. Do they even realize who has been covering most of our home expenses? Such a lack of appreciation was something I never anticipated. I'm Melissa, a 31-year-old woman who returned to my parents' home after finishing college. Initially, I plunged into the corporate world, eager to establish my career. However, the challenges became overwhelming, prompting me to go back home while I faced a period of unemployment. During this time, I explored remote job opportunities. Drawing from my background in science, I embarked on a freelance engineering journey, tackling smaller projects. Initially, the compensation was modest, but the ability to work on my own terms was profoundly meaningful, providing a stark contrast to the structured nature of conventional employment. This arrangement allowed me to generate a substantial income while minimizing social interactions. As my confidence and clientele expanded, my earnings grew, eventually aligning with what I would earn in a standard corporate position. Nonetheless, the primary obstacle was my parents' comprehension of my work setup, especially my mother's reluctance. My father seemed to understand after I explained, but my mother, who clings to traditional ideals, struggled to grasp the concept of remote work. Despite my attempts to clarify by showing her emails from clients and pay stubs as evidence of my legitimate endeavors, she remained skeptical. She frequently questioned the sustainability of my career, implying it could be a dubious business or even linked to some questionable organization, despite regular payments indicating otherwise. Even with my thorough explanations, my mother's doubts lingered. She often expressed concerns about my reliance on what she perceived as unstable unemployment benefits. While I had contemplated moving out for independence, my savings weren't sufficient for such a transition. During this time, my father's health began to decline, facing worsening conditions in his legs and back that required nursing assistance and led to his premature retirement. He assured me that his pension would suffice, but knowing my mother's spending habits, I foresaw difficulties ahead. As I looked at my father's face, the lines of worry and exhaustion were unmistakable, reflecting his concerns about our uncertain future. Throughout my college years and my subsequent return home due to mental health issues, he had been my steadfast support. The thought of leaving him to navigate life on his own while I sought independence weighed heavily on my conscience. My mother was visibly shaken by the sudden deterioration in his health, struggling to comprehend the abrupt change. Given these circumstances, I felt a deep sense of responsibility to give back to the family that had stood by me through thick and thin. I reassured my father of my commitment to financially support the family moving forward. He was initially taken aback, questioning whether my income would be adequate. However, I confidently demonstrated the stability of my finances, which seemed to alleviate his worries. My father, who had always made an effort to understand my unique work situation, was pleasantly surprised by my newfound financial reliability. Buoyed by his acceptance, I took on the responsibility of contributing to household expenses, medical costs, and other financial obligations. Each month, I began transferring a significant portion of my earnings into my father's bank account. Aware of my mother's frequent use of my father's credit card, I took proactive measures by establishing a new main card for myself and providing her with a supplementary card to help manage spending more effectively. My father, ever cautious with finances, encouraged my mother to adopt a more frugal approach. Despite my contributions, my mother remained doubtful and even questioned the appropriateness of my living at home. I defended my position by emphasizing the financial assistance I was providing, arguing that my absence would create more difficulties for everyone. Although she was initially unconvinced and suspicious of my intentions, my father's steady persuasion eventually led her to allow me to stay. As I continued balancing work and household duties, I noticed my mother increasingly took my efforts for granted. Her expectations regarding household chores became stricter, often reprimanding me to complete tasks more swiftly. "Can't you finish your chores any faster?" she would complain. I tried to explain the challenges of multitasking while maintaining a full workload, but she dismissed my concerns. The strain in our relationship intensified, appearing increasingly irreparable, in sharp contrast to my father's understanding and appreciation of my efforts. Despite this strained dynamic, we managed to carry on in this manner for a year. However, after that year, my father's health worsened, requiring hospitalization. I visited him every day, keeping our bond strong through this difficult time. In those moments of shared concern and comfort, my father expressed his gratitude, fully acknowledging the tension between my mother and me as he faced health challenges. Despite the emotional toll it sometimes took on me, I remained dedicated to supporting my family, drawing strength from memories of my mother's unwavering commitment during my student years. However, the dynamics within our household shifted dramatically with the unexpected arrival of my brother Matthew and his wife Catherine. They announced their intention to live with us, supposedly to lighten my load. This revelation caught me off guard, and I noticed my mother avoiding my gaze during the conversation. Although Matthew and Catherine claimed they were there to help, their words seemed to imply that I wasn't doing enough, with my mother subtly suggesting that I needed to contribute more. I discovered that my brother Matthew, having graduated from a prestigious university, had landed a job at a respected firm. This revelation led me to question the true motives behind his and Catherine's sudden decision to move into our home. Surely, with Matthew's substantial income, they shouldn't need my financial support, especially since I was already fully focused on my own career pursuits. Adjusting to life with Matthew and Catherine under the same roof turned out to be more difficult than I had anticipated. One morning, as I was engrossed in my work, Catherine called out, "Wake up, Melissa, make breakfast." She pounded on my door, demanding my attention. As someone who usually rises early and dives straight into my tasks, I explained that I was busy. However, they insisted I prepare breakfast and urged me to hurry. Their presence added yet another layer of complexity to our already tense family dynamics. Catherine's demand left little room for me to object, so I reluctantly made my way to the kitchen. Our family typically enjoyed leisurely mornings, relishing meals together when everyone, including my mother and Catherine, was around. While I had always believed that a wife would prepare breakfast for her husband, Catherine insisted we collaborate, so I joined in. Despite my best efforts, it was clear they were dissatisfied. "Is this all you made for breakfast? This isn't enough," they critiqued. I had carefully prepared a plate with fluffy scrambled eggs, a fresh lettuce salad, buttered toast, and a juicy sausage, thinking they would appreciate it. Yet, somehow, it fell short. "You don't have to eat it," I snapped back, taken aback by their blunt criticism. Their surprise quickly turned into confrontation as they challenged my attitude and questioned who I thought I was. Matthew, often condescending and likely influenced by our mother, mocked me. Despite my attempts to explain my work commitments, they dismissed my reasoning. "What kind of work is that? Are you out of your mind?" they exclaimed, frustrated by their lack of understanding and the interruption to my work. I grabbed my laptop, ignored their further protests, and left the house. As I walked away, Matthew's voice trailed behind me, demanding to know where I was headed. I ignored him and made my way to the hospital where my father was staying. Upon entering my father's hospital room, I found him looking surprised. "Melissa, what's wrong? You seem upset," he remarked. I recounted the morning's events, and with concern etched on his face, he responded, "I didn't realize they were behaving like that." "I'm sorry, Melissa, don't worry about it. You can choose your own path in life." Feeling somewhat lost and anxious about my mother's comfort with Matthew living at home, I shared my concerns. My conversation with my father provided me with much-needed clarity, reminding me of the importance of standing firm in my choices. He reassured me, saying, "You don't need to stay where you feel uncomfortable. All I want is for you to be happy in the way you choose to live." Empowered by his supportive words, I resolved to leave that evening. When I returned home, I walked into a scene that felt straight out of a tense drama. The serious expressions on my mother, brother, and sister-in-law's faces were unmistakable. Matthew immediately accused me of neglecting my work responsibilities, claiming he had to take the day off because of me, a decision I internally questioned for its ease. Their voices escalated, culminating in Matthew's stern command, "Get out. From now on, the three of us will live together. If you don't want to stay, please leave. We don't need an overbearing presence like you around." His words stung, and to my surprise, I could only respond with a bewildered, "Why?" Ignoring my protests, Matthew and Catherine were resolute in their demand for my departure, stating that I was no longer needed. With our father absent, my mother sided with them, viewing me as an obstruction. My frustration mounted as they dismissed my contributions to the family finances, focusing solely on their grievances. Fuming over their insensitivity and their determination to control the situation, I devised a plan. I discreetly transferred funds from my mother's daily use credit card to another account I managed. This move was meant to catch her off guard when she realized she could no longer use her card. I also initiated a transfer of money from my father's account, which was vital for our family's financial stability, to further reinforce my position and ensure they understood the impact of my contributions. I made certain that only my father's medical expenses could be withdrawn from the separate account I had established, a detail my mother was unaware of. This meant a significant financial burden would now shift to Matthew and Catherine. While I wasn't fully informed about the specifics of Matthew's income, I was confident he would now truly feel the financial pressure. After completing all necessary arrangements, I packed my belongings and declared, "I'm leaving this place." To my surprise, my mother, brother, and sister-in-law, who had previously been relentless in their harassment, were visibly shocked by my decision. Their expressions of disbelief showed they hadn't anticipated such a decisive move from me. Yet, despite their astonishment, I sensed a subtle hint of enjoyment in their reactions. As I announced my intention to leave, they responded with condescending remarks and a sense of relief, saying things like, "You're finally out of here. We've never dealt with such a nuisance. You won't be coming back, right?" I replied firmly, "Absolutely not. Please don't reach out to me." They smiled as I exited, but I couldn't shake the curiosity about how they would manage once the reality of my absence, and the financial fallout, hit them. Starting a fresh chapter in a peaceful setting, I relished the tranquility and the chance to enjoy my own space. Rejuvenated and focused, I dedicated myself to my work. However, as I expected, the calm was soon shattered by an unexpected call from my brother. "I told you not to reach out. What's going on?" I asked, my annoyance evident. His tone mixed surprise with urgency as he probed about my role in the family finances. I confirmed my involvement and reminded him that I had repeatedly explained my work commitments, but neither he nor our mother had taken them seriously. He admitted, "Well, Mom mentioned a lot, and I was somewhat confused." This was an indication that perhaps they had misread the situation. Realizing the misunderstanding wasn't entirely on my part, he went on to explain that they were struggling financially. My absence had made it difficult for them to cover expenses, exacerbated by my mother's unchecked spending. Though I felt a hint of sympathy, I firmly stated, "I was able to assist you because I lived there. Now that I'm gone, you'll need to figure it out yourself." The situation shifted unexpectedly when my brother reached out again, urgently asking for help transferring money into his account. Confused, I half-joked, questioning if he was serious, especially since he worked for a reputable company. To my surprise, he admitted he had been let go due to a major mistake at work. This revelation left me momentarily at a loss for words. It seemed he might have returned to our parents' home, mistakenly believing there was ample financial support available, potentially relying on a stable pension from our father's retirement. Curious about my financial contributions, I found it ironic to think about his likely shock upon learning the truth. My brother's wife and my mother also joined in, pleading for financial assistance, claiming they were nearly out of savings. My mother revealed that my father had decided to stop his contributions to the household finances. I told them that I had already supported them enough and urged them to work hard and take care of themselves. I chose to cut off communication, reaffirming my decision to distance myself from their financial issues. Meanwhile, my father, aware of the growing tension with my mother, consulted a lawyer and decided to seek a quieter life elsewhere. I continued to visit him regularly, cherishing our close relationship. During one of these visits, a friend informed me about my brother's ongoing challenges, emphasizing the repercussions of their financial mismanagement. He had moved into a small apartment, adopting a frugal lifestyle. Meanwhile, my mother struggled to adjust to her new job, and my brother found it tough to connect with his younger colleagues. Despite his wife's efforts to support him, she eventually found the pressure too much and decided to leave, forcing my brother and mother to confront their difficulties independently. Concerns about my mother persisted, as she continued her habitual overspending, leading to increasing debts. However, I understood that I could only offer limited assistance without jeopardizing my own stability. I focused on my work, diligently building my resources and considering new ventures. I aimed to spend quality time with my father, who remained a bright spot in my life. Each moment together was treasured, appreciating the peace and happiness he found away from family tensions. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video. Stay amazed.